Good to see you all. Amy asked me to say a few words on this topic that we're looking at today, the wife of a noble character. And I must say it was a bit of a challenge. Not so much because of what's written, it's difficult to understand, but because there's so much about this lady we're going to read. It's absolutely incredible. So, before that, let me tell you about this guy who's lying on his deathbed, and he turned to his wife and said, Sandra, you know, we've been through so much together. Do you remember when the shop was burned down, we lost everything of value in the world, and we had to start all over again? And she just smiled and said, I remember. Then he says, Sandra, remember when our son was killed in a car accident? I was heartbroken, I didn't think I could go on, but you were by my side. His tears came down her eyes and she said, I remember, dear. Then he says, now, here I am, about to leave this world. In my final moments, where are you? She says, I'm right here. I'm right here. And he turned and looked at her and said, I'm beginning to think you're nothing but bad luck. I thought it was funny myself personally. We're going to look at the victorious woman, or virtuous woman of Proverbs 31 today, and bear in mind, this is actually a woman, but it's a woman that's been described. And it's a woman that's been told by King Lemuel's mother, saying to him, this is the kind of woman you need to find, and this is the kind of husband that you need to be. So we're going to see that as we go along, and before we get into the text, it's worth noting that verse 10 to 31 is actually written in poetic form. In Hebrew, it starts with the Hebrew, it's written in the Hebrew alphabet. So it starts with the first Hebrew letter and works its way through there. So it's a very beautiful thing. So today we're going to learn 10 things, believe it or not, and I will get done in time, don't worry, I'm not going to keep you here for hours. But I'm going to share with you 10 things about this lady, and I hope you get some kind of inspiration from it as we go along. So the first one is her worth. A wife of noble character, who can find? She's worth more than rubies. Some translations use the word, who can find a virtuous woman. I think Stephen's one had a slightly different version on there as well. So the point is clear. She's a woman of power. She's a woman of strength. Her husband, who is noble, knows that she is more than capable. Her husband knows that she's strong, and therefore she's valuable. And he compares her value to rubies. And remember, back in the day, I mean, rubies are still worth a lot of money today, but back in the day it was worth a lot more. So what he's saying here, or what the writer is saying, that this woman is worth way more than your annual income. And I'm wondering, as I was going through this, I'm wondering to myself, and I'm thinking if you guys are thinking the same, especially husbands. Do you think the same way about your wives? About her worth? About her value? When was the last time you told your wife how much she's valued? Because Paul tells us that we should love our wives as Christ loved the church. In other words, that is to love her sacrificially, unselfishly, purposely. So we, as husbands, have got a high calling in this, haven't we? For our wives. Notice her faithfulness. Her husband has full confidence in her and lacking of value. She brings him good, not harm, all the days of her life. You know, we live in a society where adultery, fornication is strife, or rife, maybe that's a better word. It's all over the place. And here is a woman who can be trusted to be faithful to her husband. Her husband He's not going to go and run off with some rich woman anytime soon. She's not going to go off and run away with somebody else who lives in the nearby village. None of them are going to have a love affair. This guy's got a woman whose worth is way more than that. Way more than that. And she's worth way more than rubies, as we mentioned a moment ago. And so her husband trusts her. Do you know why? Because she has earned his trust. Trust is a two-way thing, isn't it? It builds up on each other. He's got a wife who's going to do nothing but bring good for him all of his life, not harm him. He's got a wife who submits to him and lives with purity and reverence, as 1 Peter chapter 3 tells us. He's blessed. Look at her work ethic. She selects wool and flax and works with eager hands. She's like the merchant ships, bringing her food from afar. She gets up while it's still light at night. She provides food for her family and potions for her female servants. She considers the fields and buys it. Out of her earnings, she plants a vineyard. She sets about her work vigorously. Her arms are strong for her task. She sees that her trading is profitable and her lamp does not go out at night. Somebody once said to me, "Don't tell me that you love me. Show me." And again, in today's society, you hear about women, especially, getting beaten up by their husbands, and the husband will turn around and say, "I love you." That's what's happening in many places. But her commitment and her love to her husband in this story here is seen in her actions and her attitude. You know, it wasn't that long ago in the UK, my mum fell under this umbrella, where it was taught that women were to hate hard work. My mum was in that umbrella, but she never went out and got a job for years. She stayed at home. She was a stay-at-home mum type thing. Because that was her job. And any other job was just too hard for her. That was the mentality. So, all that goes on, but notice here, a slack hand causes poverty, but the hand of the diligent makes rich. This isn't a lazy woman claiming benefits. This isn't a lazy woman who's just staying at home doing nothing. She's diligently working. And she enjoys what she does. She gets up in the morning and she gets things done. She's a businesswoman. Sorry. And she's more than happy to go out into the world and trade with merchants and trade with buyers. She knows how to use her talents to provide for her family. And notice, she plants a vineyard. Why? Well, it's a business venture. But also provides beverages, maybe for medicine, and maybe for sacrifice. And so, what her goods are selling, she works into the middle of the night to maintain her product, to make sure it's keep going. So this is not a stay-at-home mum we're talking about here. She's very busy. Look at her generosity. In her hand she holds the distaff and grasps the spindle with her fingers. She opens her arms to the poor and extends her hands to the needy. You know, one of her talents was making thread with the distaff and the spindle. That's one of her talents. She uses that to her benefit. She's very hardworking, like I said. She's a businesswoman, but she didn't forget something. She didn't forget those who were vulnerable. Defend the weak and fatherless. Uphold the cause of the poor and the oppressed, God says. And this is a theme that runs right through the Old Testament. She's interested in those who are vulnerable. She cares for the poor. She cares for the needy. In fact, the text says that her arms are always open for them, always ready to be helpful. So she's willing to feed those who need fed. She's willing to clothe those who need clothes. She's willing to protect those who need protection. So here is a woman according to Philippians 2 and 3, who knows not only her own worth, but she knows the worth of others. What do you see when you walk down a high street and there's a guy or a woman sitting outside Tesco's begging? What do you see? Do you see a beggar, or do you see a soul? She's always putting the interests of others before her own. And that's a lesson you can all learn, isn't it? Yes, we get busy. Yes, we get tired. Yes, we get exhausted. But there are times you have to lay that aside and put other people's interests first. Help them first. And that's what Paul is basically trying to teach us in Philippians. Now look at her family. When it snows, she has no fear for her household, for all of them are clothed in scarlet. She makes coverings for her bed. She is clothed in linen, fine linen and purple. She knows how to use her strengths for her advantage. She knows why she's doing what she's doing. And why is she doing what she's doing? To support her family. That's what she's doing. But actually, when you read the whole text in one go, you'll see it pop up over and over again. Her household, her household, her household, her children, her husband, all over and over again. And that's a lesson we all must learn. In Song of Songs, my mother's sons were angry with me and made me take care of the vineyards. My own vineyard I had to neglect. I remember years ago speaking with Frank, and this was a verse he brought to my attention. And I'm like, I don't understand what you're talking about here. And it says, when you're in full-time work, it's very easy to neglect your own vineyard. In other words, to neglect your own household because you're so busy doing other things. And then we have to learn that lesson. So here, we can get so busy with work, with other things, we end up neglecting those that are closest to us. Sometimes we get so busy in life, we neglect and often neglect our spouses, or we neglect our relationship with God. And we've seen that happening time and time again, don't we? I've seen it over the years where Christians claim they love God and yet you never see them. Why? Because there's always something. There's always something. There's always something. Over and over again. She wasn't like this. Look at her husband's reputation. Her husband is respected at the city gate, where he takes his seat among the elders of the land. So her husband is not only just noble, he's also an elder. Somebody once said, and maybe you know who said it first, behind every great man, there's a great woman. Yeah, we've all heard that saying somewhere. Well, the reason her husband has a good reputation is because she's got a good reputation. She cares for her husband's reputation, and she works hard so that her husband can carry out the God-given role that God has given to him as an elder. And as we know, an elder's task is incredibly difficult. And even in the Old Testament times, he had the responsibility of sitting at the city gate, because the city gate is where you got everything done. That's where you sorted all the problems out, whatever was happening in that village or that city. So he's got a highly responsible task in all of that. Notice, a good name is more desirable than great riches. She really was wealthy, and she had a husband who she thought a lot of, and who had an important role to play, but she never lost sight of the fact that a good name goes way further than your good works. She never lost sight of that. Number 7, her confidence in the future. She makes linen garments and sells them and supplies the merchants with sashes. She's clothed with strength and dignity. She can laugh at the days to come. She speaks with wisdom and faithful instruction is on her tongue. She watches over the affairs of her household and does not eat the bread of idleness. Although she works hard, I find this amazing. She laughs at the future. She laughs at the future. Why is that? Well, today we would say we could laugh at the future because we're in Christ Jesus. And we know exactly where we're going. Yeah? So we could smile at death because we know where we're going next. But another reason why she can laugh is because she's strong, she's dignified, and she's honest in her dealings. When she comes to her business, she's honest. She's not one of those people like the religious leaders that used to use dishonest scales and rip people off. She didn't do that. Her words are characterized by wisdom and faithful instruction. She's got no intention of deceiving anybody or ripping people off. She's alert to the needs of her family. She knows that if she just does nothing, it's going to lead to sin. She knows that. That's why she's energetic in meeting her family's needs. And here's a woman that when she speaks, people listen. That's what you get from this text. She opens her mouth and people listen to what she said. Now, I don't know about you, but I really enjoy studying with other religious groups. I really do. I love it when they come into the house, usually 2 by 2, you know what I'm talking about. I love it when we sit down and try and have an honest conversation. But when those times happen, there are times I like to unleash my secret weapon. And do you know what my secret weapon is? Her name is Fumi. And if these people think that I've got a little bit of Bible knowledge, fair enough. I know for a fact that when Fumi speaks, they're going to listen carefully. And she's going to silence them. And she's going to silence them with wisdom. Not from her own wisdom, but from what the scriptures say. She'll listen to what they're saying, and then quote it back, and guess what's going to happen? They're going to be silent, because they know that they're off the mark. The point is, when she speaks, people listen. And I was telling Fumi I was going to be saying this today. She's like, no, but you know what, I'm proud of that. And I hope you're proud of that. That you've got people among you that will say what needs to be said. And so the reason that people stop and listen is because wisdom is being taught. And we all need to learn to be wise. We all need to learn to properly, correctly handle the word of truth when people are coming around and studying with us. Number 8, her reward. The children arise and call her blessed. Her husband also, and he praises her. Many women do noble things, but you surpass them all. This is the reward for the virtuous woman. You notice, the reward is not on how much money I've got coming in. The reward is not on how well I am in the community. The reward is simply that her family praise her. Bless her. They speak highly of her. Her children and her husband call her blessed and simply praise her. And I wonder, how many children today say these kind of things to their mums? When's the last time you said to your mum, you know what, you are absolutely awesome? When was the last time husbands said to these kind of words to their wives, that you are absolutely incredible? Stephen hinted at that earlier with Sheila. Oh, how we need children and husbands to encourage their wives like this today. Lots of women do many, many noble things. Well, she surpasses them all. In other words, she's in a league of her own. Number 9, her fear. Charm is deceptive, and beauty is fleeting. But a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. We all know that people can appear charming, and people can appear beautifully, physically beautiful, but guess what? that is corrupt as the days long inside their hearts. Many women use their charm and beauty to take advantage of other people around them. But we also know that when we get older, we don't keep the beauty that we once had. Maybe I'm the exception, I don't know. But you know, we're not as beautiful as we were when we were younger. That's why I'm always saying to praise that he could be good at this, that, the next thing, but he's got a long way to be as handsome as I am. So, but the real worth of this woman is seen in the fact that she fears the Lord. We were discussing this last night, Finn and I, about what's the core, what makes a marriage, what makes it work. And at the core of it all has to be God. And if you fear God, then everything else is going to fall into place within that marriage. But the real worth of a woman isn't seen in what she wears. Peter tells us it's inwardly. It's her gentle and quiet spirit. It's seen in her devotion to God. That's where the real worth is. And finally, number 10, her honour. Honour her for all that her hands have done, and let her works bring her praise at the city gate. So the woman deserves to be honoured and praised for her hard work at the city gates. She knows that being the wife of an elder who sits at the city gates, she knows that's going to have an impact on him. It's going to have an impact on the other elders, because remember, the city gates is where people came in and when people went out. She's going to be honoured for all of that. She knows that she's played a big role even within that community. And so praising her at the city gates actually gives us the idea of a memorial for her hard work and everything she's done in that community. And we're not talking about a memorial because she's passed on, just a dedication to say thank you. Kind of like when we went to India, you know, we went to this building and there's this big plaque with this guy called Tony Tyson on it. That sort of thing. It's given her honour, yeah? So she's been honoured, if you wish, for her generosity, for her kindness, and she's left a legacy within the community for people to talk about for years to come. Isn't that amazing? What will you be remembered for? What will people say about you in 10 years' time? Or 50 years' time, or when you pop your clogs? What are people going to say about you? See, husbands, in the same way, be considerate as you live with your wives, and treat them with respect as the weaker partner and as heirs with you of the gracious gift of life, so that nothing will hinder your prayers. Husbands are going to honour their wives, and we do that by recognising that they share in this glorious life with us. So let me encourage you, married women, to model yourself after this lady we've just read about in Proverbs 31. Let me encourage you, husbands, to cherish your wives. Cherish them. Bless them. Be proud of her. Talk about her to people. Let me encourage you, young women. If you plan to get married one day, roll your marriage, or what's the word? Take the example of what we just learned today and be that woman. And if you're a young man who plans to get married sometime in the future, then again, take the guy, her husband in the story, as your role model. And when you do that, chances are you're going to have an absolutely awesome marriage. You really will. So may God bless us and keep us safe. And Amy, thank you so much for bringing this to our attention. God bless.